are looking to interact with the customer. They're looking to address the customer activities and think about, for the first time, the customer-facing processes that are aligned with those customer activities. So the question we're asking businesses, and the research that we've been undertaking for the last 5 years, is to ask, are organisations actually ready to address this? This new technology that's coming into the world. The first question we need to ask when we go to businesses and we speak to them about ERP2 is, what benefits do they hope to realise from their ERP2 system? In fact, what we know is that there's an endemic failure for organisations who have made huge investments in this type of information system, is that they're not realising the benefits. We have to look for them. We have to do something that we've not had to do before. When we've mapped the processes for the supply chain, and we've made the improved supply chain efficiencies, we haven't looked at the front-end mapping. Front-end mapping is something that we now have to do when we're addressing customers. We have to think about, probably for the first time in the organisation's history, the information that's coming into the organisation and the information that's going out from the organisation to the customer. Sales teams, they're notoriously protective of their customers because they work on a commission basis. But ERP2 is born on sharing of information. So we have to break down the barriers that exist for the flow of information for the improvement of customer services. We have to think about the processes that exist before we integrate an organisational database that will be able to facilitate the customer-facing activities. But more than that, we have to think about the processes that go out from the organisation to the customer. What we're talking about here is the data mining, acquiring the data so that it's presentable to the customer in a meaningful and a relevant way. What that actually means, and the first key issue that we come across, is that knowledge and content management is essential in a customer-facing organisation. We're not talking about organisations speaking to each other, we're now talking about organisations speaking to their customers. I came across this image and it articulated what I was thinking far better than I could. I'm just going to read out what's on the screen here before I explain the relevancy of the picture. But here we have Einstein, we all know Einstein, sure. And we've got his equation. We have ego to the right of the equation, we've got knowledge to the over to the left of the screen as we're looking at it. What he says is the more knowledge, the less ego, and the less the knowledge, the more the ego. When we went out to the industry and we spoke to suppliers who were providing software solutions to organisations who were looking to integrate organisational database that could help facilitate their customer needs, there were two types of consultants. There were those consultants who were applying the critical success factors, the standard business processes that they were addressing when they were implementing a standard ERP system. ERP2 is not the same as an ERP system. It requires a whole new, entirely new approach. And so consultants who take the time to think about the customer-facing activities and the customer-facing processes are seeing the benefits being realised. Those consultants who are implementing an ERP system in an ERP2 environment were seeing that the benefits were not being realised. So what we know is that the biggest driver of ERP is e-business. And what is e-business? In fact, it's electronic customer relationship management, ECRM. Who amongst us has heard about the term ECRM? Anybody heard about ECRM? No? Great, one or two of you out there. What this actually means, if we dissect this, we're talking about the electronic communications of all stakeholders of the organisation. We're talking about the employees, the business organisations, and the customers. But we're also talking about customer relationship management, and here what we're talking about is an organisation that has the capability to build relations and loyalty programs with its customers.
So maybe a good example of an ECRM is probably you all have used Ola cabs. Ola has come and taken the business away from under the nose of the auto drivers and other private cab industries. What is the single most successful factor in terms of why Ola is successful? Because once they get you as a customer, whether you order on a taxi on a regular basis or not, they'll keep sort of in touch with you, or they'll keep in touch if you have ordered a taxi. Basically, they ensure that your customer experience that you have, right from ordering the cab till you pay the person. So there is also a transparency, because earlier, whatever the driver demanded, you really needed to pay that, right? But now, the driver says, I'm going to clock on. When you get off, he's going to say, I'm going to clock off. And that's the meter, And he says, and you can verify that through someone, who is remotely kind of really having this on his radar or her radar. And they'll give you, so you can get value for money as a customer. Whereas it's now, believe it, it's cheaper now to go buy a cab, an Ola cab, than buy an auto. In many instances, right? So the world is changing around us, and that's a good example of an ECRM, how it can be used most effectively.
Thank you, Surendra. So what we're actually saying here is that customer-facing processes can be optimized. Those organizations that are taking the appropriate steps to optimize their customer-facing operations are seeing a greater financial gain. Despite organizations not realizing the benefits from an ERP2 system, many organizations still invest in their ERP2 system. In fact, the research that we know is that 25% of all Asian and European organizations are looking to invest in their existing ERP system. There are two ways you can get to a position where you have the capability to offer ERP2, and that is to invest and upgrade your existing ERP system or to implement it outright. But what we know is that in both instances, you have to treat it as an outright implementation because there are no shortcuts in addressing the customer-facing processes that are required for this type of system. And that brings us to the second important point, which is ERP improves customer satisfaction. We know that. I came across this picture and it again highlighted a really important point. But going through the process of having an organisation that has the IT capability to improve interaction with their customers is not only hard, going through the processes of this, it's actually unprofitable because of the high investment costs that are incurred. But, and it takes out all of the most senior people because they're all extremely busy undertaking this process. But an organisational database who have gone through this process, it facilitates marketing automation capabilities, and what that means is that it makes everybody's life easier because the customers are interacting with the organisation without the need for the interaction of the knowledge worker. And it also makes the organisation more profitable because we've seen the initial investment offset, and all of the knowledge workers can get access to the information they need from their database in order to deliver that improved customer experience.
In this respect, I must butt in here and say that ERP2 is, the principle of ERP2 is similar to the principle of life. For long-term gain, you need to go through short-term pain. If there is no pain, there is no gain. So if you want the long-term gain, you have to go through the pain in the short term. So unless businesses are going to go through this pain for 3 to 5 years or 6 years or 7 years to reinvent and re-engineer and to reposition themselves in the changing world around them, they will not simply exist. They will not be there. So it's a bit like all the time and effort that you are investing and the money that you're investing in building a successful career. You're going to spend the next, you have already spent the previous 5 years, maybe you're going to spend, after your MBA or whatever, you will possibly, some of you who are academically minded might invest in academia or do your research or whatever. So the more you sweat it out now, the easier it's going to get, and it's the same with ERP2. So those businesses who take a conscious decision and who know what do they want, why are they in business with? Oh, it's very simple, we are in business because we want to make money. So how can you just make money if you don't put the customer at the center? I think we have a slightly different kind of understanding. The Pani Puri wala, who is probably selling Pani Puri on the roadside. He says, oh, my business is based on footfall. I don't care if somebody doesn't buy, the other person will come. We got 1.3 billion people in the country. I can never go out of business. That maybe is true for him, but that's not true for the Hondas or the Toyotas or the other people who provide goods and services, particularly if you are in the service industry. What is the value that you're providing? The banks, for example. What is the value the bank is providing to its customer? If it can't provide the value to the customer by investing in its information systems and by modernizing its operations, you don't want to stand now in a long queue to get your cash out, which has gone, thankfully, with the ATM machines. Likewise, the railways, for example. Whereas earlier, you used to go and stand in queues for 5, 6, 7 hours. But today, Tatkal, you can just get it half an hour before it opens. So things are changing and businesses need to adapt.
Thank you, Srinivas. Okay. Ultimately, what that means is that the technical innovation of ERP2 facilitates knowledge sharing, which we've just spoken about, the ability for organisations to communicate with their customers. It leads to two different things. It leads to the greater